What if the love we thought was over was only waiting for the right moment to return? What if one of the most romantic movies of all time is finally getting the ending we always wanted, but never got? Yes, the news is spreading Pretty Woman 2 might finally be happening. And this time, the story could break our hearts all over again. For more than 3 decades, Pretty Woman has lived in the hearts of millions. People still remember that final scene, Edward, standing in his white limo, roses in hand, climbing up Vivian's fire escape like a modern-day knight. It felt magical. It felt complete. But deep inside, many of us wondered what happened next. Did Vivian and Edward really stay together? Did real love survive after the fairy tale ended? Now, whispers across Hollywood say that Netflix is preparing something bold, a sequel that might finally reveal the truth. But before we dive into the rumors, we must go back to where it all began. Released in 1990, Pretty Woman became more than just a romantic comedy. It was a story about 2 broken people from 2 different worlds who found hope in each other. Vivian Ward Young, street smart, funny, and kind, was far more than what society judged her to be. Edward Lewis, wealthy, powerful, and emotionally lost, had everything money could buy except peace. When their paths crossed, it wasn't just romance. It was change. Both of them grew. Both of them healed. Both of them chose love. But what made Pretty Woman so special was not just the story, it was the truth inside it. Life doesn't give happy endings easily. Love doesn't come without pain. And every person, no matter where they come from, deserves to be loved for who they are, not what they have. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere became Hollywood legends after this film. Their chemistry felt real, too real. Fans believed in them. They made us laugh, cry, and dream. And for 35 years, people have asked, will there ever be a Pretty Woman 2? For years, the answer was always no. Julia Roberts once said, "Some stories are best left alone." Richard Gere suggested that real life isn't a fairy tale. Disney and director Gary Marshall discussed story ideas, but nothing ever came to life. Then tragedy struck Gary Marshall, the heart of Pretty Woman, passed away in 2016. With him went the dream of a sequel, or so we thought. Now, something has changed. In 2025, Netflix is stepping in and, according to inside reports from sources close to the project, there is new hope. Quiet conversations have reportedly taken place, meetings, script outlines, even emotional reactions from Julia Roberts herself. The industry has one big question: what brought Pretty Woman back now? Some say nostalgia. Some say money. But maybe it's something more human. Maybe it's because the world today understands broken love more than ever. Maybe a second chance story is exactly what we need right now. Maybe, after all this time, Vivian and Edward still have something left to say, but if the sequel really happens, don't expect a simple fairy tale. People change. Life gets complicated. Love gets tested. And maybe Edward and Vivian didn't stay together. Maybe real life pulled them apart. Maybe this story is not just about love, but about regret, forgiveness, and one last chance. In the next sections, we will explore the truth behind the Netflix rumors, the emotional story ideas being developed, and the possible return of the original cast. But one thing is already clear: the world may soon witness the comeback of a love story that defined a generation, because sometimes love doesn't end. It waits for the right time. And that time might be now. Time has a way of changing everything: people, dreams, even love. To understand why Pretty Woman 2 might finally be happening now, we have to look at the years after the first film. Because behind the smiles, behind the happy ending, there was another story. One that no one saw. After the cameras stopped rolling, Vivian Ward and Edward Lewis became symbols of impossible love. She was freedom. He was security. Together they made us believe in connection beyond class, status, and fear. But what happens after love begins? What happens when the fairy tale fades and real life arrives? In the years following Pretty Woman, fans created 1,000 different endings. Some believed Vivian and Edward got married, built a family, and proved that love conquers all. Others imagined a darker truth, that the fairy tale was only temporary and life pulled them apart. Because love may begin with a kiss, but it survives only with effort, trust, and sacrifice. And Edward had never learned how to stay. Behind the scenes, Hollywood also had its own battle with a sequel. Studios wanted it because the world loved Vivian. The world loved Edward. But Julia Roberts turned down every script. She refused to return unless the story had meaning, unless it respected who Vivian became. She once said, "Vivian was special. You can't just bring her back unless there is a reason she needs to return." Those words meant something. Vivian was never a princess, she was a woman who fought for her life. Richard Gere felt the same. He didn't want Edward to return unless he had grown, unless there was more to explore in his emotional journey. Edward was a man rescued by love, but could he hold on to it? Did he still deserve it? Was he brave enough to fight for it again? Then came Gary Marshall, the director who brought magic to the first film. He believed in a sequel that was more mature, not a copy of the original. He wanted to explore a new theme, not fairy tale love, but second chances. He once revealed an early concept. Pretty Woman was about a woman finding love. The sequel should be about a woman finding herself again. But life doesn't always wait for perfect timing. In 2016, Gary Marshall passed away and the dream faded. For years, nothing happened. No scripts. No cast. No green light. Silence. So why now, after 35 years, has Netflix reportedly stepped in? Because stories return when they are needed. The world today is not the same as 1990. We live in an age where love feels temporary. Relationships end over fear, pride, or silence. People hide emotions behind screens. Divorce, loneliness, and emotional distance have become normal. And maybe the world is hungry for a story about healing. A story where love isn't perfect, but worth fighting for. Early reports say that. Netflix executives were moved by a pitch not for a sequel, but for a continuation of life. A story where Vivian and Edward did not stay together. A story where time separated them, but destiny brings them back. Not for a perfect reunion, but for truth. Because some relationships are too deep to forget. Some people never leave your heart, even if they leave your life. And that is where Pretty Woman 2 begins, not with a wedding, but with distance. Years of silence. Old pain. Memories trapped in time. Two souls who once found each other now must face who they became, but there's something else, something hidden in the story rumor. Something emotional. Something powerful. The past isn't finished yet. Every love story has a truth that lives beneath the surface, a truth hidden by smiles, good memories, and hopeful endings. And now, as the world whispers about Pretty Woman 2, it becomes clear. This is not just a romantic sequel. This is a story about what happens when love is tested by time and by secrets, according to early leaks from inside sources close to Netflix. The sequel's working title is rumored to be Pretty Woman, A Second Chance, a name that hints not at a fairy tale return, but at a story of unfinished emotions. Reports suggest that Vivian and Edward did not stay together. Their love was real, but real life got in the way. Edward, still driven by business, slowly slipped back into old habits. Vivian, who once dreamed of a better life, began to feel like a part of Edward's world she didn't truly belong in. The romance that once saved them both began to fall apart. And here is where the rumored storyline takes a shocking emotional turn. Years have passed. Vivian has built a quiet life. No yachts, no limousines. No diamond necklaces. She chose peace over power, growth over glamour. She works now not in a fancy company, but helping young women fight for their dreams, the same way she once fought for hers. She isn't rich. She isn't famous. But she is strong. Stronger than she ever was. Edward, on the other hand, is alone again. He has everything: wealth, respect, power, but nothing feels real anymore. He still remembers her, the woman who changed his life, but he never reached out. Some say he was afraid. Others say he believed she deserved better. But maybe he simply didn't know how to love without losing control. Then comes the event that brings them back together, a moment so emotional It changes everything. Some insiders say Edward faces a major legal and personal crisis of betrayal inside his own company. Others say the twist is even deeper, that Edward receives a letter from someone in Vivian's life, a letter that forces him to confront the past he walked away from. And there are rumors, unconfirmed but powerful, that the story introduces someone new, someone connected to both of them, someone who carries a truth neither Edward nor Vivian is ready to face: a daughter. Yes, a rumor claims the sequel may reveal that Vivian had a child one Edward never knew about. Not because she hid the truth out of anger, but because she wanted to raise her child away from Edward's cold business world, away from judgment, away from pain. But fate does not stay silent forever. Imagine the emotional power of that moment. Edward meeting the child he never knew he had, Vivian facing the man she once loved, and a daughter standing between two strangers who once promised to fight for love. But there's another version of the rumor, darker, more dramatic. One that doesn't involve a child at all but loss. Some say the reason Vivian and Edward reunite is because of the death of someone they both cared about, the passing of someone from their past who forces them to confront what they once were. Whether it's Kit, Vivian's best friend, or someone else from their old life, the grief becomes the bridge that brings them face to face again. Netflix has not confirmed any of this, but reports say Julia Roberts has read an early script draft that brought her to tears. Richard Gere reportedly said the story is brave and human. And here's something even more surprising. Netflix doesn't want this film to feel like a nostalgic cash grab. They want depth. They want truth. They want heartbreak, healing, and a love story that feels real. And yes, an emotional soundtrack is already in discussion, with artists rumored to include Adele, Andrea Bocelli, or even Lady Gaga, because this isn't just a movie, it's being shaped into a global emotional event. But behind all this, there is still one big question: can Julia Roberts and Richard Gere really return after all these years? And if they do, how will the world react to a love story that dares to break our hearts again? In Section 4, we uncover the final twist, the casting buzz, the emotional message of the sequel, release expectations, and the one line from the script that insiders say gave Julia Roberts chills. This is where everything comes together: the past, the pain, and the possibility of forgiveness. Because sometimes, love doesn't need perfection. It needs courage. If time teaches us anything, it is this: love does not disappear. It waits in memories, it hides in silence, and sometimes it survives inside us even when we're too afraid to admit it. And that is exactly where Pretty Woman 2, the story the world never expected to see, finds its heart. Hollywood insiders say the script explores not just a reunion, but a reckoning. This is not a simple love story. This is a story about unfinished souls, about two people who walked away from love but never escaped it. And now fate brings them back, not to rewrite the past but to face it. The return of Vivian and Edward. Sources close to the production suggest Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are emotionally invested in the project. Why now, after so many years of saying no? Because this story doesn't pretend that love is perfect. It doesn't tell us that everything works out easily. It tells the truth that love is difficult, love demands honesty, and real love asks us to face what we fear most, ourselves. In the rumored script, Vivian and Edward meet again after years of silence. When they see each other, there is no dramatic hug, no joyful music, just a long, quiet look to lives colliding with the weight of everything unsaid: regret, hurt, longing, memory. All of it sits between them like a storm that never passed. But the real emotional moment comes later, during a scene that insiders say brought Julia Roberts to tears during an early reading. In this scene, Vivian asks Edward one question that holds the weight of 35 years. Why didn't you come back for me? No anger, no blame. Just pain, the pain of love that was never healed. And Edward, broken but honest, finally answers, I thought you were better off without me. I didn't think I was enough for you. It is a confession not of selfishness but of fear. And in that single moment, the truth is clear. They didn't lose each other because they stopped loving. They lost each other because they stopped believing they were worthy of love. Story about second CHS, but this isn't just their story. Rumors say the sequel explores the journey of a younger character, someone who represents who Vivian once was, lost, judged, misunderstood. Vivian becomes a mentor, a guide, a voice of hope for someone who is close to giving up. She becomes proof that broken beginnings don't define us. We rise, we heal, we choose who we become. And Edward, who once only saved companies, must now learn how to save something far more fragile: love. Netflix's Viio and Netflix reportedly wants Pretty Woman 2 to be more than a film. They want it to be a message. A reminder that love doesn't always last forever in the way we imagine, but sometimes, if we are lucky, life gives us one more chance. A chance to say what we never said. To forgive. To return. To begin again. Production rumors hint at a 2025 release window, depending on cast schedules and script completion. But the world is already waiting. Because this isn't just about nostalgia. It's about closure. About two characters who became part of millions of lives finally getting the ending they deserve. Not a perfect ending, but an honest one. The final message. Insiders claim the movie ends with a line that will stay with audiences long after the credits. Love doesn't always come once in a lifetime. Sometimes it comes when you're finally ready. No fairy tales, no fantasy. Just truth. Real, grown-up, soul-level truth.